doing a retorque on Curt Beasley's Eldorado that he just picked up. We did a full restoration on it. And where did you ride it to?
Up through Utah, Nevada, Arizona, Big Loop.
He put a couple thousand miles on it, almost, and said it ran great, had no problems. The only thing I was concerned about was getting a retorque done. We did about probably 4 retorques before he left here, and had no problems. No pinging or anything like that, but I did the other side, and for reasons I don't want this video too long, but I already retorqued the other side, and now we're gonna show you guys how to do this.
So real quick, what is a retorque, Steve?
The gaskets in the cylinder head, it's a retorque and adjusts the valves. The gaskets, the base gasket and the head gasket on these will shrink up from getting hot and cold, and they were new gaskets, so we're retorquing the cylinder head to specs and then adjusting the valves to specs, which on a new motor you want to do quite often. So we're going to bring this side up on top dead center, just crank it over, and then we get some compression here.
You're just putting your finger over the
spark plug hole.
Yeah.
I guess I should explain that so people know. But so I'm just looking. A lot of guys will stick a screwdriver or something in the spark plug hole to tell when it's on top dead center. And you can look at the push rods. I just look at the piston, and it's up there now. So we got that on top dead center. Of compression stroke. I loosened those already. It didn't come in loose. And I'll spin the push rod to make sure we got a little free play up here. Make sure it's on compression stroke. I'll just see if this head is shrunk up. Not too bad. 10 thousandths on the exhaust and 6 on the intake, so they both are pretty good still. So we're going to pull the rocker arms off. 10 millimeter socket to get those out. Loosen the push rod adjusters.
So you loosen them up quite a bit there.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier when you go to put these back in. They'll slide out, and if they're tight, they're difficult to get them back in. So pull those out. There's a spring and a brass washer that go in between that. Make sure that goes up against your rocker tower and then your spring below it. There's a head bolt underneath there, but you want to make sure when you put this back together that it doesn't get over tightened. And there's an aluminum pressure washer here also. So we got that done. Now, a lot of times, I'll put a torque wrench on it. I loosen the bolt first. I know they're probably, let's see if they're loose. 30 foot-pounds. So what I do is I'll loosen these up just a tad before we retorque it. Okay? That way, if these bolts and nuts if there's not oil underneath it, you'll go to retorque it and it'll still be loose, but it'll like gear it back like that.
Right. So they're dragging versus.
Yes. See, that was a little loose there because there's nothing there. No oil. And the same thing when you loosen or tighten, you can go on a crisscross pattern.
So there's 6 of them.
Yes. The one hidden under there, and then the other one. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or you can do, as long as you stagger them. And I'll go to like 20, 24. First time. Not quite the 30 pounds. This one can go to 30. Down to that one. Recheck it. If you're, like a pound or even 2 pounds tight or loose, it's not gonna make any difference. It's not a rocket.
But with a decent pressure.
Yeah. I don't know if you have the digital type like this or
no, I've got one where you.
Is it click or is
it clicks.
That's fine. As long as if you with that torque wrench, if you drop it or sometimes if you drop it. Have a snap on it. If you snap on it, recheck the calibration on it. But I mean, after you do this a couple times, you'll know, you'll feel it, and be able to tell. But if you're not busy when you're doing the oil changes, at least check it. With your oil change when you do the oil change. And if you got enough miles on it now to where you don't, I literally did it like the first mile I retorqued it, and then I think 5 miles, and then 10, and then 15 miles, and then 20, and then wrote it, and then just before you took it, I rechecked it again.
Yeah, it's got 2,500 on it now.
Oh, yeah, well, right, that's right, didn't it? I thought it had 2,000, I think 25. So when I put those in, I set them like that, okay?
Spring and then the
Yeah,
water.
and then I'll squeeze it, and shove it in there all at once. But sometimes you'll find that, like, if that isn't lined up perfect, you won't get this in here. So that went right in, but a lot of times you'll have to slide this around to get it in right. When you get this home, if you have a problem with it while you're doing it, just call Mom or myself. Now these bolts.
Or just watch the video.
Yeah. These bolts, if you need to replace them, sometimes you do. They'll get just from tightening it, they'll get worn here. Plus we reuse zig bolts. Have a couple of those extra on hand. You don't want to go any longer than this because oil comes through here, up through here, and then there's actually a hole in here where oil goes through, right? But it has to come up through this bolt. And if you have this that's like way too long, you're going to block the oil coming up to this. So, and these do wear out. So I use the shortest bolt possible, but the threads on will start getting a little boogered up.
Okay.
And I just get new ones. I have them. I like to replace them because I don't want that coming out. That's just me. They're cheap. You know what I'm saying? So
They have a little.
there's a lock wash.
Lock wash.
Yeah. Not too tight on those. But I had those in and out like 13, 14 times. They've been in and out already. So you want to, that's why I look at them. I mean, if these things came loose, they're not really going to, you'll lose a little bit of oil pressure, but they're not going anywhere because of the valve cover. It's not, I haven't had one come out, but especially when you're going down the road, there's pressure up against this because it's not always on top dead center.
You had mentioned you're going to have a birthday next month, and you said, I guess we put together, we're born at a great time. Yes. Great time, great era. We wrote yesterday, so we wrote
Trying to get it so
what do you think the Major League Baseball is like today?
yeah, see that it won't go in.
Yep.
I guess I was born at the wrong
Don't hit it with the hammer. You can just move that washer, and you can actually see where it is. They're just about identical. It's just about flush going all the way around. So after you, I mean, the first couple times you'll probably be fighting this, trying to get it in, believe it or not.
He was in our studio on a Monday. He had borrowed another studio, and the trade was that, yeah, we'll give you the studio.
By the way, this is really good coffee.
Thank you. It's about the best you can get. I mean, Lindsay, you could have it.
You're gonna let me have a cup of your fancy coffee?
You can't put creamer in Kona coffee.
Thought I just get the regular shit.
No, creamer only goes in hotel coffee.
Yeah. That's my favorite right there. Kona pea berry that I roasted. Not ball roasted. So, 6, we know those are loose. So I'll sit there and I'll crank it down to where I just feeling a little bit of drag on.
Well, it's his own damn fault, okay? I mean, he agreed to this deal, signed off on it.
6 on the intake, 10 on the takeoff.
Yeah.
I have zero sympathy for Pete in that regard. There's absolute zero. Now, and it is, wait a minute, Nick, it is sort of odd.
The Rams, on the other hand, they're not going to draft until 175th. They, for the 6th year in a row, do not have a first
Those bolts are getting boogered up through the
Jared Goff.
they're not really holding anything.
The draft. I mean, he also lost the second and third round draft picks in that deal for Von Miller. So they're not going to draft for a while.
So you just want a little bit of tension when you move it back and
Yes.
forth.
And make sure I don't think I said that that this engine is cold when you do this. Do not do this warm. It makes a difference.
I just want one more point up before we got this roast thing. I hate to bring you back to it, but isn't it interesting in Major League Baseball that the so-called home run king and the so-called hit king, neither one of them is in the Hall of Fame?
Is that the pipe?
Just gonna throw
The feeler gauges, see how it's all bent up? Yeah, it's not. It's what it's doing, it's catching on that stuff. And you'll have a fresh feeler gauge, but I can tell from doing this thousands of times that
he was betting on baseball when he was the manager. And people want to just look past that. And I've known a few degenerate gamblers in my day. And when they tell me that I never bet against my team, my degenerate radar goes up a little bit, okay?
all right. And then not too tight. You see how thin this wall is? See what I'm talking about? So if you over tighten that, you crack that head very easily. I've seen a lot of them come in with blowing oil out from up there, and it's not blowing it out, but leaking because it was over tightened.
That's a big flash where you tend to go.
Yeah, you think you do. You don't want to come loose, but you got the aluminum pressure washer. You definitely want to use aluminum pressure washer, not a fiber washer. And that's that, and then I'll just grab it and make sure I got everything.
I know it's a difficult issue for a lot of people, but
That way, if, the phone will ring or something, and I'll walk away from this and go, did I tighten all that down? So I know I got everything tight. Gasket's all good.
You reuse those several times.
Yeah, you can, as long as there's no tear in it, probably if it got used enough, it would get pretty thin, and if this was warped at all, it would start seeping some oil. But yeah, I'll use those gaskets over and over and over and over. This valve cover's been off probably 15 times at least since you picked it up or dropped it off a year ago. So retorque is so important on these bikes, and valve adjustment, I can't reiterate enough.
Do you do it basically every time you change the oil?
I do. I check it. Yeah, I definitely at least check it, and then it may not be out. Now the retorque on here, it probably won't shrink up much more than it is, but it doesn't hurt to check it. It's not hurting anything. It's not, some people say, oh, you're wasting your time. Yeah, well, whatever. I take pride in this shit. So get yourself one of these because it makes it real easy to work on. Or you can go with a ratchet and extension and the right size there on that. But I like the T-handles because you can get the stuff on and off real quick.
So what are all the tools that you need in order to do a retorque?
Well, you need your feeler gauges, a set of feeler gauges. 10 millimeter socket, a 17 millimeter socket, 10 millimeter Allen, and 26 millimeter to turn the engine over, and 13/16 for your spark plug sockets. I think that's it. Yeah, and 13 for, and some adjustable pliers. I like to use the jawless type, I call them, because there's no teeth on it, so you don't start screwing up the rocker adjustment power on it, the tips on it that you grab hold of. And that's that. So I'm also gonna take a shim out of this belt up here. The belt itself is stretched some on here. So to do this, you add or remove shims.
Oh, it just squeezes.
Yeah. And it just you can see just from stretching out, I'm going to do that. So and that's it. So if you like the video, hit the like button. Mo usually does this, but he thought I'd get more likes because I'm doing it. I'm in the video and not him. But the fat bald bastard is got to go to the dentist today, so he'll probably cut this all off anyway. But anyway, give us a like, Send your motorcycles to us. I'll be glad to work on them and thanks for watching.
Attaboy.
You know, just minus or subtract them in the front of the back.
Yeah, I was riding across North Dakota on my GS, and I fried the belt.
The
Came
belt?
loose. So I was stuck on the side of the freeway.
Yeah, that's not good.
And
See,
no way to get an extra, a spare one in North Dakota.
start walking or what?
No, that's why I realized I married the right person. I called my wife, and she drove 1,300 miles straight to pick me up.
Whoa!
Nothing like a good woman.
No,
Right.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
These also, any nut or bolt you take in and out of these,
Yeah.
the threads will start wearing. I don't, guys will pull a bolt out and they'll go, the mechanic put a strip bolt in there, and that's not necessarily true. I mean, if it's stripped in, yeah, but when you get it out, the threads are a little boogered up. It's from going in and out and in and out and in and out. And if you get some dirt or shit, and when you're putting it in, a lot of guys will feel it get tight and they'll keep going. But these, you also want to make sure that they're not too long because they'll go
Go
through.
through the case.
Yeah, they'll. I've seen that a lot. Pull the belt, the back half of the pulley off, and there's grooves in the timing cover. So I'll just grab the extra one. And when you tighten this down, you don't want to go full tight on the like this one, and this one. You want to rotate it. I'll show you. You want to rotate it.
Also, the belt gets seated.
Yeah, yes, because if you tighten it down in one place, it's going to be cocked like that, and then you don't want that. And it's also better to have it too loose on these, because what happens is if these belts are cranked tight, up here where the generator sits on the engine, that's aluminum. And if it's too tight, a lot of guys will see these and they go, the belt's too loose, the belt's too loose. Well, it doesn't have to be cranked tight, because it'll actually, Mo and I have had to mow welds, he does all the welding, but that'll actually just get smashed so flat from the generator bouncing up and down. Or if the generator bracket breaks, it'll destroy it real quickly. When a generator bracket breaks, you'll hear it. You'll hear some squeaking that you don't know where it's coming from. So we'll get those in there like so, and then I'll rotate it a little bit. I'll rotate
keep
a little bit,
tightening
yeah, by hand, and then you can go back. I think that'll be good.
So just to recap a little bit, because I think I paused the video for a second.
Yeah, that's
what
all
are
right.
you doing now?
I'm tightening up the generator belt.
Oh, okay.
I took a shim, took a shim out in between and put it on the outside. Cause the belt, it was a new belt, and it stretched out a little bit.
So when it's the right place, how much play do you?
You'll see. I'll show you.
Yeah.
Here. It's gonna be just about like this. It's gonna tighten up a little more, but. It's your oil pump sucking oil out. That's what you're hearing there. So that's perfect. You can grab hold of it and actually feel it there. That's just where you want it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's still got some tight. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still sloppy enough to where it's not pulling down on that.
Wearing the bearings out or bushings out.
Yeah, any of it. It's, I don't know why, it doesn't, like an alternator on a car, it doesn't even have to be anywhere close to that tight. And those, you just get them, you know, snug. There's a lock washer on there, so. And we'll put the spark plugs in and you're ready to go home.
All right.
You could have another cup of coffee there if you want. I don't know if you had any at the motel, but thanks again for watching.